right, thank you very much. This is actually the sky this 6 weeks. But here we go. Lots to talk about this month. All right, so as I normally do during a talk, I'm going to give you some background on some space exploration news, and there's a couple of big things happening this month in history, and then for observing, we'll get into the various things happening with the sun, the moon, the planets, the dwarf planets. We've got a comet to look at. We've got some occultations and eclipses happening, and then I'll highlight some variable stars, double stars, and early winter targets when we get to the end. And I will be uploading all the content in the presentation to the RASC-TO.ca website. All right, so in case you're sleepy and you want to fall asleep, I'll just give you the spoiler alert up front. So we've got 3 meteor showers to look forward to, the Geminids, Ursids, and Quadrantins. We've got Comet 46P Wartanen reaching its perigee and perihelion maximum brightness on the 16th. Winter solstice, of course, on the 21st, which gives us our nice long observing nights. And then we've got opportunities to watch Algol brighten from its minimum. We have New Horizons passing a new world in the solar system on January 1st. We've got, at some point in January, a SpaceX Falcon 9 crew capsule test launch, 3 evening lunar occultations, and then we've got a dark blood supermoon in third week of January. Oh, and the SpaceX Falcon Heavy is supposed to launch sometime early in 2019 as well. All right, so here's a few of the launches listed. I'm not going to go through what they all are. You'll see there's a lot of ComSats and Earth observation satellites in there. One thing you'll notice at the bottom is we've got this sad item is the replacement of the Iridium satellites. That's happening fast, and right now we're down to maybe 1 or 2 in the week, per week over the GTA. In terms of the manned space, crewed space flight, I should say, we've got highlighted here the Falcon 9 rocket, possibly the first week of January. That'll be the Crew Dragon capsule as shown in the photograph here. And then sometime early in 2019, as I said, the Falcon Heavy launch. That'll be the second Falcon Heavy launch. And then down here at the bottom is an interesting one. That's India is sending its second mission to the moon. The Chandrayaan-2 will have an orbiter, a Vikram lander, and a rover. So that'll be something to watch for as well. Okay, the big news on January 1st is that the New Horizons spacecraft is going to make its flyby of 2014 MU-69, which has been nicknamed Ultima Thule. And that's a graphic showing its position in the solar system with respect to Pluto and the inner planets. Occultation measurements of the object indicate right now that it's either dual-lobed or possibly a binary object. We're not too sure yet. But anyway, on January 1st, just after midnight, so that's 12:30 a.m. on January 1st, is when the flyby will actually occur. Just in case you're interested, the object's position is in the northwest evening sky in Sagittarius, but it's too close to the sun to get a look at that patch of the sky right now. And here are the specifics. So you can see that the red bar across the top is the sort of timeline path of the spacecraft. Each tick would represent a minute. The sun's distance is 43.3, and the Earth's distance from the spacecraft will be 44.3 astronomical units, or times the mean Earth-Sun separation. And that gives the radio signals travel time from the spacecraft back to Earth of more than 6 hours. So it'll be actually more than 6 hours before we know what happened during the flyby. But it does occur just after we ring in the new year at about 12:30 a.m. on January 1st. And I've converted the speed in kilometers per second into kilometers per hour, so 51,948 kilometers per hour. And the distance between the spacecraft and Ultima Thule will be only a third as far as it was from Pluto, so we should have even more high-resolution imagery of the surface. The other big thing happening right now is that the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft is currently taking up position at a safe distance from the asteroid Bennu. It's spending the next month or so mapping very carefully the gravitational field and the shape of the asteroid, and so that it can determine an approach for the future, the time when it comes in to take a sample off the asteroid. So on December 31st, it's going to move closer to the asteroid, And then in February, it's going to descend to its final close-in survey orbit of 1.4 to 2 kilometers off the surface of Bennu. And then I guess it's the special day, July 4th. They're going to go in for their sample collection July 4th of 2020. And then the idea is to have the sample get returned back to Earth and crash land or parachute land in Utah in the desert on September of 2023. The latest news this week was that the instruments on board the spacecraft have detected the presence or evidence for water molecules bound up in the asteroid, so that's pretty exciting. Another cool part of this mission is that there's a Canadian element to it. So we've contributed the OSIRIS-REx laser altimeter, or OLA, and that little instrument you can see is tucked in the right-hand side of the spacecraft's upper deck there. And the purpose of this is it uses a LiDAR, so it's a laser ranging measurement technique, which will carefully measure the travel distance between the spacecraft and the surface of Bennu, and eventually create an ultra-high resolution, ultra-high accurate 3D model of the surface of the asteroid. This is just a sample of a mock-up of a topographic model that was created in the lab. All right, so the other news this week is that recently we had the Mars InSight mission land on Mars on November 26th, and what I thought was really interesting was that even though it doesn't have microphones on it, it does have a seismic monitor, a seismic sensor, and that seismic sensor has been able to detect the fluttering of the solar panels as the winds on Mars flutter the solar panels. And so they've created this little 1-minute video. Whoops, let's go back. 1 minute video. Let's go back over. Got to go back on my other screen here. I just thought that was cool to hear the winds on Mars. So the Mars 2020 rover, which will launch in 2020, will have actual microphones on board, so we'll be able to actually hear the winds in audible range. All right. Just a little bit of summary of what what's going on in terms of exploration in the solar system, and of course, as I highlighted, the New Horizons mission, the Mars InSight mission, and the Asteroid Bennu OSIRIS-REx mission up yonder. So in this month in history, we've got a number of people having astro birthdays. Actually, yesterday, we had the birthday of Annie Jump Cannon, who was a pioneer in stellar classification at the Harvard Observatory. We have Tycho Brahe, who was a pioneer in naked eye astronomy. His birthday is on Friday, I guess. And then on the 16th, we have Arthur C. Clarke, prolific sci-fi author and kind of the inventor of geosynchronous satellites. Then on December 16th, we have E.E. Barnard, American astronomer, astrophotographer, pioneer in proper motion. And here's the star that's named after him, which is the high proper motion Barnard star. So each image in the GIF is of 1 year's difference. And then in December 20th, we had the passing of Carl Sagan back in 1996. We have December 25th, we have the birthday of Sir Isaac Newton and his Newtonian telescope, which he invented. On December 27th, we can honor Johannes Kepler, who was a contemporary of Brahe and invented the laws of planetary motion. And then in 1882, we have the birthday on December 28th of Arthur Eddington, astronomer and developed the first stellar mass-luminosity relationship. And of course, we recently lost Stephen Hawking, but his birthday is on January 8th, and we'll probably want to remember that forever on from now. And then we have Robert Woodrow Wilson, co-discoverer of the cosmic microwave background radiation. His birthday is in January. Then on January 8th, we have the passing of Galilei at age 78. But on the bright side, we have the birth of Doctor Who in 1908. And then January 15th, we have the passing of the anniversary of the passing of John Dobson. He died at age 98. He left an amazing legacy of public outreach astronomy and a lot of telescopes that we all have at home, thanks to him and his pioneering efforts. And then Jill Tarter. Her birthday's on January 16th, and we wish her well. She's doing great. All right, now in space exploration, we have the anniversary of the SOHO, Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, launch in 1995. We have Venera 7 becoming the first spacecraft to land on another planet, Venus, in 1970. We have in 2006, again, New Horizons spacecraft launched in that year for its trip to Pluto and beyond. And in 2004, our Opportunity rover landed in January. And in 1967, unfortunately, that's when we lost the crew of Apollo 1 in the fire on the pad. And then later in the month, or the next day on that month, the Shuttle Challenger loss. December 13, 1920, we have the first diameter of a star, Betelgeuse, being measured by Francis Pease using an interferometer at Mount Wilson Observatory. That was probably the face he had when he got the measurement. And then in 1672, Cassini discovered Saturn's moon Rhea. I thought this was a great picture. This is the first photograph of M31 back in 1888, and it was one of the first proofs that those fuzzy objects in the distance aren't nebulas, that they're actually galaxies, other worlds, other island universes, I guess you want to say. And then in 1801, we have Piazzi discovering Ceres. And then between January 4th and 15th, 1610, Galileo took his brand new spyglass and pointed it at the heavens and observed all kinds of discoveries, and moons and craters on the moon, and spots on the sun, and moons around Jupiter, and phases of Venus, and the stars in the Milky Way were not just one solid mass, but were individual stars shining in the sky. In 1839, we have Thomas Henderson publishing the first stellar parallax measurement. And then in 1969, the first optical pulsar, which is one of the stars in the center of the Crab Nebula, using a 36-inch telescope at Kitt Peak. And in 1929, Edwin Hubble published his paper declaring that the universe is expanding, and that's his data plot from his paper, distance versus recession velocity. All right, so now into observing. The Globe at Night program is underway again for 2019, and the campaigns this year, in the early part of the year, are for using the constellation of Orion. And so what you do is you go out at your observing location and you see how dim the stars in Orion you can see, and then report that to the Globe at Night organization, and they compile that information to produce light pollution maps and keep track on the distribution and the trends in light pollution globally. All right, sunrise and sunset. So we've got 8 hours, 59 minutes of daylight now, and we'll have 9 hours and 49 minutes of daylight by the next meeting on January 30th. Before then, we have the northern winter solstice on December 21st, and Earth at perihelion on January 2nd at midnight. Astronomical twilight, if you're unaware, the sky is not truly dark until the sun is more than 18 degrees below the horizon. And so right now, astronomical twilight is ending at 6:24 p.m. and starting again at 5:58, and that gives us 11 hours and 34 minutes of imaging time, which is plenty. And we're actually getting about 45 seconds more imaging time per day until we get to the solstice. By the time we have our next meeting, though, we're down to 10 hours and 52 minutes of imaging time, and we're starting to lose it at more than 2 minutes a day darkness at that point. There's just a graph for the year. So the phases of the moon, we've got the first quarter on the 15th of December, this weekend, and we've got the full moon on the 22nd, last quarter on the 29th, and finally we have the new moon happening on January 5th, and that'll be a partial solar eclipse, and I've got some more information on that in a minute. and then first quarter on the 14th, and the next full moon on January 21st. That'll be a lunar eclipse and a supermoon, as I highlighted at the start. And last quarter again at the end of the month. So this partial solar eclipse is actually going to cover northern China and into Siberia, and then sweep down through the Aleutian Islands and end in the North Pacific Ocean. So it's not really something that's worth driving to Acton for. But if you want to watch it online, I've got the times in Eastern Times mentioned there, 7:27 p.m. to 10:12 p.m. Eastern Time on January 5th, with greatest eclipse occurring around 8:41 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's the total lunar eclipse happening on January 5th. So this will be a so-called perigean total lunar eclipse, in other words, a supermoon, for those who like to use the flashy terms. And this one's going to be particularly dark and deep because the moon will be traveling deeply through the Earth's shadow, deep in the umbra. And what's interesting is that it's an extra long totality of over an hour. Note that at full totality, you'll have the Beehive cluster, M44, sitting just 7 degrees to the west of the moon. So you can take a look for that while the moon is nice and dark. And here are the timings. So basically, totality would begin around 11:41 p.m., maximum eclipse at 12:13 a.m., and then totality ending around 12:43 a.m. Yep. The date is January 5th, right at the top there. Sorry. Oh, is it the 21st? 2021st. I'm sorry, I'll fix that. Yeah. That's using cut and paste on a slide, sorry. All right. All right, what are the planets up to this next little while? So Mercury is in the midst of an excellent pre-dawn apparition in the eastern pre-dawn sky. It reaches greatest elongation on the 21st, and its disk will be waxing fuller and shrinking in size through the end of the next month. It will reach superior conjunction on the 30th of the month, and you can look for Jupiter to be 1 degree south of it on December 21st. Venus is in a lengthy pre-dawn apparition as well. It's going to reach its maximum brightness of minus 4.6 on the 6th of January. And during January, it'll wax in phase and shrink in its disk size. And it'll pass only 2.3 degrees north of Jupiter on the 22nd and be close to the moon during daylight hours on the 31st. So there would be an opportunity to see if you can spot Venus using the moon as your guide during the day on the 31st. Mars is remaining visible for the next good while in the south and western sky after dusk. As the entire sky is drifting west, Mars is rapidly traveling east in its orbit, so it's kind of holding its position in the sky. But it will be decreasing in magnitude and shrinking in disk size throughout the duration, and the moon will be nearby on the 12th. Jupiter's recently passed opposition, so it's now joined the other planets in the pre-dawn eastern sky. It rises about 6:30 a.m. right now. And it's going to, as I said, it's going to pass close to Venus on the 22nd. Here's another little fun thing that Jupiter will be doing is on the 16th of January, Jupiter will be only 15 arc seconds north, or 15 arc minutes north of the bright globular cluster, NGC 6235. Saturn is buried in the western twilight in the evening sky. It will be in conjunction with the Sun on January 2nd, and then reappear in the eastern pre-dawn sky after mid-January. So Uranus and Neptune are available for viewing right now. Uranus is a good eastern target in eastern Pisces. It's about 1 degree north of the star Omicron Piscium, which is a naked eye star that I've got labeled there. And there's a little, you can see that the path that I've drawn there has a little V shape to it. So it's going to end a retrograde loop on January 6th and then start heading eastward again slowly. Neptune is in Aquarius, and right now Mars has been near Neptune, but Mars is pulling away right now. But you can see that to find Neptune, you can use these 3 naked eye stars, Lambda, Psi, and Phi Aquarii. It's sort of inside that little triangle, closer to the western end and moving east through the triangle. If you're interested in looking at asteroids and minor planets, Juno is a good target right now. It's an all-night target up in the border between Taurus and Eridanus. It's a magnitude of plus 7.78. There's the path from tonight through to the January 30th meeting. And then you can also find Vesta low in the west until mid-January. Ceres is in the eastern pre-dawn sky in Libra, and Pallas is at a post-midnight target in the constellation of Virgo. If you want to look at variable stars, so Algol is an easy starting one. It's a eclipsing binary star that normally sits at a magnitude of about 2.2, but every 2.87 days it drops to magnitude 3.4 and back over a span of about 10 hours. So if you start by watching at its minima, you can watch it brighten, or if you wanted to, if you know when the minima will happen, and you can find the minima listed in the Observer's Handbook. You could also start with it at full brightness and note it as it drops down. But the next two conveniently timed minima for us would be December 28th at 6 p.m. and then January 17th at 7:49 p.m. So that would be the time you'd start checking it and then come back about 5 hours later, just before bed maybe, and then see how it's brightened up. Mira is another variable star. Now this is a different kind. It's a pulsating variable star. It's the brightest of its class. And it's a low-temperature red supergiant, or red M7 class star, about 200 to 300 light years away. And it's located kind of in the neck of Cetus. I've got it labeled with a yellow label up there. And it's got a 110-day rise from about magnitude 9.5 up to magnitude 3 or so, and sometimes even brighter. And then it takes 220 days to decline. So here's the last 330 days taken off the American Association of Variable Star Observers website for Mira. And you can see that we're sort of near the peak right now, so the current date would be the last date on the right, the latest date on the right. In terms of double stars, we thank Blake Nancaro for posting suggestions for double stars on the forum and on the website from time to time. I've highlighted 3 that I think are fairly easy for beginners and also are really spectacular. So we have Sigma Orionis, which is up near Alnitak, and it's actually a multiple star system. It's shaped like a dart, sort of like a narrow arrow. It's about 8 arc minutes long, and it's about 49 arc minutes southwest of Alnitak. Then there's Iota Cancri over in Cancer. It's a blue and yellow pair separated by 30.5 arc seconds. And then one of the nice ones down here in Canis Major is 145 CMA, and if you've got a go-to telescope, you might have to plug in HR 2764. But it's a winter alberio, basically. It's a blue and orangish or yellowish stars separated by 26 arc seconds. In terms of what minor planets are up to these days, so we're near the end of the year now, so we've discovered up to now 1,867 new near-Earth asteroids or objects. Those are the red dots in the animation. And then we've got 8,474 new minor planets for the year. That's the green dots. And we just keep finding more and more of them all the time. And 41 brand new comets for this year alone. So comets, the big one to watch for if the skies would ever clear up for us, is Comet 46P Wirtanen. And it's a periodic comet, returns every 5.4 years. But it just happens that this year when it returned, its perihelion position is close to Earth in Earth's orbit. So we're actually going to have a perigee and a perihelion all at the same time for that particular comet. On the 16th, there's the light curve. It's not that up to date, but you can see it sort of peaking around magnitude 4, which should be naked eye visibility under dark skies away from the light polluted skies. It's certainly visible in binoculars. People have reported. I haven't yet seen it myself, but I keep trying. And here's its path over the next little while. So it's in the northeastern evening sky. It culminates about 10 p.m. or a little after that. And when it's at peak brightness, it's going to be just below the Pleiades. So it'll be a few degrees below the Pleiades on the 16th. And after the 23rd, it'll become a circumpolar object. And you see it'll sweep sort of north or right to left in the sky, passing through Auriga and eventually into Ursa Major. And you've got a few milestones here. It's going to pass 1.25 degrees southeast of the northern Trifid Nebula on the 19th. And we've got 1 degree east of Capella on the 23rd. And then we've got 4 arc minutes south of the Pancake Galaxy, NGC 2685, on the 16th. So if it's still bright enough, it might be a nice through-the-telescope photo opportunity. There's another comet that's available right now. It's 38P Stephanoterma. That's a long 38-year period comet. It's an all-night target in the constellation of Lynx, but it's about at its brightness, bright peak now of about magnitude 9. So it's going to need definitely a telescope to look at that. And there's this light curve. So meteor showers. We've got 3 showers coming up. We have the Geminis, which are one of the strongest showers of the year. They're already active now, and they'll peak this Thursday before dawn. We have an early setting crescent moon that'll help keep the sky dark if the clouds will go away. And these meteors are often intensely colored and slower than average because we think the particles that produce the shower are derived from a more rocky body, an asteroidal body, called 3200 Phaethon. The Ursids are coming up from the 17th to the 23rd, and they'll peak before dawn on the 22nd. The irradiant for the Ursids is just north of Kochab, the star Kochab in Ursa Minor. And that's going to have a full moon that night, so that'll spoil the show for us. And the quadrantids. So the quadrantids will be active in early January. They'll peak on the evening of Thursday, January 3rd. That's when we'll be heading through the most dense part of the shower, of the debris field. But the best time to watch for them will be before dawn on Friday morning. And there'll be no moon, so the sky will be nice and dark for us. That's an intense peak, but it's short. It's only about 6 hours in duration, and we could sometimes get up to 100 per hour. There's often bright fireballs in that meteor shower. Now, this meteor shower is named for an abandoned constellation called Quadranus Muralis, if you're curious about where that is. It's kind of above Bootes and Canes Venticidi, and there's Corona Borealis down here on the lower left, so you can sort of get a sense. It's up near, sort of between Draco, Hercules, and Bootes, and Corona Borealis. So in terms of looking at man-made objects in the sky, there's the International Space Station are currently doing evening passes until the December 16th. And those are mostly between 5:15 and 6:30 in the evening. And then a morning pass series begins on the 22nd to January 13th, and most of those are between 5:30 and 7 a.m. And then before our next meeting, there's another chance for another evening series of ISS passes to commence on January 20th. And here's a list of a few of them. They're going to be in the handout that I'll upload to the website. There's a really nice bright one on the 8th of January, predicted to be minus 3.9 magnitude and very high, nearly overhead. The Iridium flares, you need to catch them while you can. They'll soon be gone forever. I'm only noting about 1 or 2 per week now in my skylights. But essentially, most of them are occurring right now between 6 and 7:30 p.m. in the evening and 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. in the morning. And if you want to know when a Iridium flare will be happening for your location, you just want to go to heavensabove.com and enter your location, or you can subscribe to it. You can have a tablet app, or you can look at my weekly skylights where I list them there as well. Occultations. So the only good occultation I picked up on in the next 6 weeks or so is this rank 99 occultation occurring on December 18th at 12:49 a.m. And it's the asteroid Alceste, which will dip in, the star will dip in brightness by magnitude, 1 magnitude for 6.9 seconds. It's an altitude of 65 degrees in the sky, so it's within the Hyades cluster. And the 1 standard deviation confidence will occur between the blue lines. So it basically runs from Goderich across the northern York region area, Toronto York region area, and over to Kingston area. Lunar occultations. So in the southwestern sky on Thursday, the 14th of December, from 6:21 to 7:28 p.m., we've got the first quarter moon occulting this star, Psi Aquarii. That's kind of in the knee of the water bear. And this is the view at 6:10 p.m., just a few minutes before the first contact with the moon happens. And there are a couple of other occultations to watch for. There's one on the 18th, Shy Seti, or Stellarium lists this star as Al-Kafi al-Hidam II, and that's 5:30 p.m. to 6:47 p.m. And then on the 18th, we've got 54 Orionis in the evening as well, so you can watch for one of those. Now, what's on the constellation? What's on the meridian in this time of the year? So you want you want to look at objects when they're on the meridian because they're the highest they'll be in the sky, and you're looking through the least amount of interfering Earth's atmosphere. And the light blue circle I've got listed there is showing you what's called 1.5 air masses. So anything that's at the zenith will be shining through the least amount of Earth's atmosphere. And when you get down to about 45 degrees or so above the horizon, you start getting into more and more atmosphere if you go lower than that. So the constellations that we can look for at their highest around this time of the evening at 7 p.m. would be Sculptor and Fornax down over the southern horizon, Cetus a little higher, and then we get into eastern Pisces, Aries, Triangulum, Andromeda, western Perseus, and then cut off at the top of the sky chart, we've got Cassiopeia, which is also high in the sky at 7 p.m. A couple of hours later, we pick up Fornax and Eridanus. We've got, again, Cetus and Taurus, eastern Aries, Perseus, and Camelopardalis, again up above in the high northern part of the sky. By 11 p.m., we pick up Columba and Lepus, Orion, western Gemini, eastern Taurus, Auriga, and Camelopardalis still. And then by 1 a.m., we've got Puppis, Canis Major, Monoceros, Canis Minor, eastern Gemini, western Cancer, and Lynx right up near the top, near the zenith. So what do you want to look at if you go out observing, or maybe get folks together over the holidays for a star party and want to show them some really, really nice things? We might suggest some holiday packages that will include the winter Milky Way and Orion's belt and the Hyades and Taurus and the square of Pegasus, things that they can see with their naked eye or binoculars. Christmas lights would include the Owl cluster and the Double cluster and the Pleiades cluster, which you could use binoculars or telescopes on. Some of the festive candles in the sky I would call the Orion Nebula, the Heart and Soul Nebula, and Cassiopeia. Christmas ornaments would include M31 and Bode's nebulas M81 and 82 in Ursa Major, the blinking planetary in Cygnus, M56 in Triangulum, and the blue snowball in Andromeda. And if you want to make it a double, look for Castor, Almach, and Polaris. And centerpieces would be the big bright stars to point out to them would be Betelgeuse and Rigel, Capella, Aldebaran, etc. So I hope to see everybody at Long Sault or Beevy Village, and I'll say thank you. Don't forget Orion. That's it. Thanks. Questions?
Chris, could you go to the image of Bennu, please?
Let's see if I can do it like this. Shift F5, okay.
That's okay. Just oh, okay. What amazes me, and I'm asking you because of your geology background, the Earth bulges out a little bit, but it's always rounded, and that almost seems like you have almost a straight line from the North Pole to the equator, and then another straight line to the South Pole, etc. You know, and I'm just astounded. I presume that's a reflection of the fact that it's gravel, but perhaps you have some insights in terms of that shape.
Well, what I thought was interesting was that the Hayabusa mission landed at Ryugu a month or so ago, and it's the same shape, almost like a Dungeons and Dragons die. So I guess it's a function of it's trying to be round, but it's not quite massive enough to get all the way around. But it is strange that it has that sort of two triangles stuck together look. So I don't know what the reason is, but now we have two samplings, so hopefully we'll come up with some theories as to why that is. But yeah, interesting. No? Great, thanks.
Okay, very good. Thanks again, Chris.